All right. Hello. Good morning, everyone out there. My name is Annie Moody Foster, and I am coming to you today from the Manitoba Museum. The museum is on Treaty 1 territory, the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, the Inninewak, the traditional territories of the Dakota, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. I'm very excited to be here. This is a bit of a new experience for me. I'm very comfortable with Zoom and Zoom webinars, but I'm just hoping that you're seeing me out there because we don't aren't as directly connected to you. So I'm not really able to be as interactive as I would normally like to be in one of our virtual field trips. So I'm here to talk about our virtual field trips and a little bit about the museum. Usually I like to make my presentations as interactive as they possibly can and using all tools and such that are available through things like Zoom webinars. And so we're wanting to interact with you. There's just because there's a bit of a lag with the streaming service that we're zooming into and the chat. I believe you have a question and answer function. You can also just use that to provide us with some information, I believe. And so a big shout out to Shannon, who is my co-host pilot in the background, seeing what's all going on. So I'll just invite people to write in the chat maybe where you are from. And then Shannon, if you want to jump in and just tell me if you're able to see their answers. So where are you tuning in from today? We're very excited to be reaching out beyond the borders of Manitoba to Ontario. Et bonjour le monde au Québec as well. So just while we're waiting to see how that communication is going to come back to us, I just want to acknowledge that I will be doing my presentation in French, or in English rather than French. I know it is advertised as a dual session. I understand that there's simultaneous translation available and that there is a link in the agenda, but I'm not quite sure how that works. So hopefully, if that is a requirement that you need, that you can figure that out. We do offer programs in French, and as my colleague Corinne will be joining us later, she will be doing part of her talk in French. So Shannon, are you able to get any information about via the question and answer from our participants?
So far, I don't have anything in the live Q&A. Oh, we do. We have Joanna from Toronto.
Hello, Toronto. Okay. Well, I'm hoping Joanna from Toronto isn't the only one who's out there. I know it is a crazy time for teachers. So that's one of the things that I really just wanted to acknowledge is that, you know, this is such an incredible time. And if you are here today at this session, kudos to you because and especially to all the volunteers like Shannon from our local social studies organization who have worked so hard to put this together and you know, bring these things forward for their colleagues. And I know that this will be available as recordings. So a double kudos to you if you are teaching while this is live and coming to see some of these sessions after the fact. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to jump in and people can be free at any time to put anything into the Q&A, any comments or questions, and Shannon will relay them to me because I can't see them directly. Si vous voulez mettre des questions en français, that is good for me too. I will just be answering them in English and hopefully the translation service is working for you. So I'm just going to launch right into my presentation. And here we go. Excellent. Screen. And oops, sorry, I don't have that up and going. Okay. So if you haven't been to the Manitoba Museum before, oh, pardon me, I just If you haven't been to the Manitoba Museum before, we are a human and natural history museum here in Winnipeg. We have a planetarium, a science gallery, and if you can see here, this is our Alloway Hall where we host large temporary exhibits. And we're known for our dioramas and telling the story of Manitoba. So when you go through the museum galleries, you're basically taking a tour from the north of Manitoba and down to the south and into Winnipeg. And we've been going, having a process of very large renewal within the museum for the last number of years. And in fact, our new galleries are going to be opening in early in the new year. And so we've called this process bringing our stories forward. And now, one of the things I've been thinking about this and teaching in this time of COVID, everybody is not only thinking about, what could you be doing, but what should you be doing and what can you be doing? And so we've had this ambitious process of gallery renewal going on. The first gallery, if you've been here before, our most sort of famous artifact is the Nonsuch. This gallery reopened just last year, and with not only sort of an improved experience, but also a new narrative. And so, out there right now, museums are really in a process of taking a very critical look at themselves. There's a whole movement called, museums are not neutral, and looking at how institutions that have been rooted in really colonial institutions, how can we change, how can we become facilitators of telling the stories of Canadian communities. And so this is one of the things that people will see in our new gallery. And so on our virtual field trips, people can come for just a general tour of the museum. When our new galleries open, those will be available. But we also have focus guided curriculum-based programs. And so you can check all of those out on our website. I did give Shannon a list of some resources that hopefully she can get into the chat. But if you can't find those, you can go on our session. If you click on my biography, I put all the links in there because I wasn't sure how else to easily share those. And so in this initiative to bring new perspectives to how we tell Canadian history and Manitoba history in particular here at the Manitoba Museum, we have been working with a variety of communities in order to facilitate and be a platform for voices. And so the Nonsuch was one of the first ships to sail into Hudson's Bay on a fur trading voyage. And of course, there were people there all before, and they have their own stories about this history. And so at the entrance to our Nonsuch gallery is an area where you can hear the amazing storyteller Louis Bird, is an Omashego or Cree man from Waskaganish. And he tells a story that has from his community about the first encounter with Europeans. So I'm just going to play a little clip of this and of him telling this story.
I am going to tell a story about the first encounter to the white people of our Omashego people. We established the Hudson Bay Company by our fur. That's part of the Hudson Bay Company is part of our donation. So we began. One of our Omashego people was hunting early in the spring, like in the middle of June. He saw the ice that was piled up out there. Sometimes he thought of a cloud that was hanging there. He came back to his camp and tell his friends, and he says, I saw something out there, something strange. Of course, nobody believed him. And so they were curious, and they said, well, let's go see what happens, if we can see that again. They go out as far as they can, and they see this is not ice, it's something white. At the bottom, there's a small island. That's what they think. And they study it, and they know it is not ice. It's not a natural thing. But what is it? Could it be human, or could it be just our imagination?
Okay, so I like that line. Could it be human? And so he's telling the story that has been passed down in his community about the first encounter with Europeans. And this bears a striking resemblance to the story of the Nonsuch, where it was pulled up out of the water for the winter time, spending along the shores of Hudson's Bay in 1668. So this is a whole other version. And I love how he says, we established the Hudson's Bay Company by our fur. So this is one of the stories that we're highlighting in our virtual field trip related to the Nonsuch, but also in our new Indigenous art program that we'll be starting in January as well, where we look at all the varieties of different aspects of art, visual art, storytelling, dance, music that are part of our the experience in our gallery. And so I'm just going to really quickly go through some of the new changes. So for people who have been to the museum before, that we have several new galleries that have been part of this gallery renewal. We have a Winnipeg Gallery that basically has a whole new take on the telling of the story of Winnipeg and the diversity of the community. What we're seeing here is our personalities wall that tell the history of Winnipeg through various personalities from all walks of life. We have a fascinating collection of artifacts related to the history and communities of Winnipeg, as you see in the background. And again, this is also a place where people can, in their own voices, tell their stories. And so what we see in the foreground here is a place where you can hear oral histories and stories of immigration. And so I'm just going to play just a really short one for you. This is Regina Kohler, who is an immigrant from Liberia, and she's talking about her first winter here in Winnipeg.
Yeah, lots of stuff surprises me when I go here. Like the winter, the snow, and some weird things happening, and you see people dress up, everybody dress up, and you can't even recognize them, except you look up their face. You can have your own family member passing by you, you don't even recognize them. Yeah, and then when I came here, see people in the street, and then the weird thing was like the smoke, like from the furnace and stuff. When every time I walk in, I see the smoke, I say, "Oh my God, what kind of house is burning there?" Not even it's just the furnace heat going out there.
So we have many of these oral histories, and this is something that we're working also to make available on our website so that teachers can take advantage of resources like this, even if they can't visit here with their students. So some resources will be available free of charge and accessible at any time, and others are part of our live interactive virtual field. So,
Anya?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but
No, please.
Are we supposed to be on slide 4? Some of the participants are just wanting to make sure that that's where we should be, where it says Louis Bird storyteller.
No, actually, I've gone past that. So that's interesting. So is that what you're seeing as well, Shannon?
That is what I'm seeing.
Okay, that's strange. So I'm just going to stop sharing, and then I'm going to reshare, and let's see if, how about that? Are you seeing a drawing now?
I am, yes.
Okay.
We also were just having audio for the last 2 things you played. I'm not sure if there was a video as well.
No, they were just audio. Yeah, no, I don't have any video clips just because that often lags, especially because when we're rebroadcasting. So anything that I'm going to be playing is just audio, but we will be going live to the galleries later on in the program, and that will be just a zoomed in audio and video of my colleague in the galleries live. So yeah, so if you everybody's seeing a drawing right now that says Prairie Gallery, that's where I'm at in my presentation. Does that look good, Shannon?
I can see what you have on the screen, properly.
Awesome, awesome. So I'm just going to quickly go through this. Exciting plans. We will be having virtual field trips based in our new Prairie Gallery, which has lots of themes about sustainability, about long-term change, about climate change, about archaeology, we are open actually, so we are open Thursday to Sunday, and we actually have had some school groups come, but I expect as we are sort of the COVID hotspot in a code orange right now, that we will not be seeing any school groups on site anytime soon, but hopefully in the future that people will be returning and be able to enjoy this gallery that's opening in January live in person, but we will be doing virtual tours of it as well once it is open. And again, we have lots of new audio and visual resources that are in the new galleries that we are working to make accessible to teachers through our website as well. And one of the things that I'll talk about at the end of the program briefly, if we have time, is our Indigenous Agriculture virtual field trip. And this is based on the work of our archaeologists. And this is one of the exhibits and some of the artifacts that are on display in the gallery. And so one of the particular stories of national interest that the museum tells is about the history of suffrage in Manitoba. So some Manitoba women, of course not all women, were the first to get the vote in Canada. And this is one of the new exhibits that's going to be on permanent display. I just wanted to include a mention of that because we have a wonderful resource that was developed for a previous exhibit that was a temporary exhibit. We now will have a permanent exhibit. And this is, the exhibit was called Nice Women Don't Want the Vote. This is a resource that you can get for free. It's available. And the link, hopefully Shannon is getting that in the Q&A. You can always email the museum and ask me, and I can send as well. A wonderful resource. So moving right along to our virtual field trip. So this is our website. We have quite a selection of virtual field trips that we're running already. As I said, some of them are very curriculum and grade specific. We've been getting a number of requests for a variety of things, and we're doing our best to accommodate people, whatever their interest is. So if you're interested in something, let us know. But if you do go to our website, you'll see a tab that says virtual programs, and that has a listing of all of them. And below it is our learning resources section that we're just in the process of building, but that's where resources like our guide to the history of suffrage in Manitoba will be found on a permanent basis. And so here at the museum, so just like teachers, in a very different way, because of course you're still, dealing directly with your students on a day-to-day basis. The pandemic has really disrupted our whole practice here at the museum. So normally on a day like this, we would have hundreds of students here at the museum. That's usually my normal job, is just corralling and dealing with them. But hands-on interactive learning, which is sort of our trade, is not possible now. And so when the pandemic shut down the museum and we all began working at home, this was our first foray into virtual programs. And so here you can see me in my dining room, where we're beginning to invent virtual programs for our teachers. And I called myself DJ Virtual Field Trip, which my teenage daughters, who were also trapped at home with me, thought was, of course, very lame, but it was very exciting. And so this is one of the things that's really the upside of the pandemic, is that suddenly it's, allowed not, for this new form of communication. And so the first virtual field trip that we developed, that we offer on an ongoing basis, and we've gotten really good feedback on this one, is about the Winnipeg General Strike. And so we currently, and you can still visit it in person because it is still here, have an exhibit on the Winnipeg General Strike. And it's what we call an intervention into our Winnipeg Gallery, where we use projections and audio and all sorts of things to tell the story of what it was like on the ground in the Winnipeg General Strike. And so because this is a story and with lots of visual evidence for it, it was the first that we told. And so when we do our virtual field trips, we're using a different platform than we are today. So it's very easy to interact with students and teachers. And so one of the main ways we've done that when people were at home is we were doing that through polls. Now, you won't be able to see, I can't use polls today in our session, but basically these are interactive things where students can click and answer and see the answers of others. And this has proven to be a great way to sort of engage students, as well as in engaging them through the chat. And I've been really, really impressed with students and how they've been able to interact with us and have a dialogue with us about these topics like the strike. And so one of the things that we talk about in the program, and so I'm just going to go through this quickly, just so you get a little bit of a flavor of the program, is just some of the things that preceded the 1919 Winnipeg General Strike. So the First World War, incredible immigration, the incredible disparity between rich and poor here in Winnipeg, all setting the scene for the strike. And then the other factor that, I don't think we gave enough attention to before, it was used to be sort of one of the things that we just checked off, was the influenza pandemic of that time period. And so here is a document from that time period where you can see, Winnipeg fights the flu. And so we can see, some of the things that, oops, pardon me, I'm just gonna draw on here. You can see, oh, my drawing's not working, pardon me. What have we done? So back then in 1918, they were closing schools, movie theaters, dance halls, things cut back. And I just want to draw your attention to the bottom part, flu care. So it sounds a lot like today, that people should stay home, stay in bed, call a physician, sleep in a warm, well-ventilated room. And so this, advice is all well and good if you have a comfortable, warm home. And so here in Winnipeg, of course, many people were living in very, very poor conditions. And so the experience of the pandemic at that time was really a backdrop for this strike. And so we do talk about this and discuss this with the students in our virtual field trip. But I also just wanted to let you know about another resource that we have available on our YouTube, Manitoba Museum YouTube. So this is a recording. You can access this at any time. And this is a talk that we did with Dr. Ethel Jones from the University of Manitoba, who talked, it was called The Right to Live, the 1919 General Strike and the Pandemic Influenza. So giving us some insights into how this pandemic influenced the strike. Another virtual talk that we have that's also recorded and available at any time on our YouTube channel is we did another session called This Too Shall Pass, A History of Epidemics in Winnipeg. And I stole that title from my daughter's grade 11 history teacher. And I think that that's, one of the things that we can really bring to students at this time is to understand is that people, these are hard times and people have gotten through it before. It's such uncertainty and it's very stressful, but the knowledge that, communities have dealt with these before, communities have moved on, in some ways I find very reassuring. And but what we're seeing on just this little screen here is a scene from the polio epidemics. That's what Winnipeg. Winnipeg had 6 major polio epidemics. So in this presentation, there are a lot of really great stories. And so I would recommend it. So getting back to our Strike 1919 virtual field trip, we tell the story of the strike. And one of the ways we do it is by looking at artifacts from our collections. And so this is one that found has worked very well with students, is looking at this artifact. So this is a ribbon. It's the kind of thing that a union member would wear on their jacket. It's sort of one of these objects that's sort of very easily read. And so here we see, pardon me. Sorry, I was just trying to annotate, but I'm not sure why that's not working. Let's leave that. So we can see in union there is strength. We see hints that the union movements was transnational. But what I find the most interesting about this one was that on the back of this ribbon is that there is a ribbon that one would wear to a funeral of a trade union colleague. And the fact that this was something that was so commonplace that you would actually have this ribbon and that this would be something you would wear to meetings, but also that permanently available as a mourning item. Now, some of the stories that we tell in the virtual field trip are about individuals in the Winnipeg General Strike, people like Helen Armstrong, very prominent union leader, and this man here whose name is John Robinson. And so he's one of the people who are featured in our Winnipeg personality wall in our renewed gallery. And he is the leader of the Order of Sleeping Car Porters, which is actually one of what is probably actually the first all-Black union in North America. And they formed their own union here in Winnipeg because they were not allowed to join the Brotherhood of Railway Employees. And they did participate and support the Winnipeg General Strike. And one other thing that I want to give a bit of a shout out to is, so for all of our virtual field trips, we have packages of pre and post presentation resources. And I wanted to give a little bit of a shout out to Kayak Magazine and the folks at the Canadian History Society, that they have amazing digital resources on their website. So these were things that we were using, particularly when schools were shut down and students were at home, as suggestions for teachers of how they can be preparing their students for our presentation. The story of the railway porters, especially in later times when the union movement did become larger for them, is told really well in their Black History edition, which is also available as well. So that's in the list of resources that I put together for this presentation. So moving along, wanted to just highlight some of the events of the General Strike. And so June 9th, 1919, the police force was dismissed. So this is a really big moment in the strike. It leads to the hiring of special police officers and creation of big divisions and confrontation here in Winnipeg. And so how we've told the story in the exhibit is through the story of 2 men who are caught up at this. And so again, there's no video with this, there's just going to be an audio segment of a conversation between 2 men involved in the Winnipeg General Strike.
Stop with the music, bud. Just trying to lift my spirits. Tough times, with the strike.
Don't I know it? I'm joining the special police tomorrow. This strike has got to end.
Well then, I will see you on the streets. I'm striking.
What? I didn't win a Victoria Cross during the Great War just to come back here to no job and to see enemy aliens from Eastern Europe striking in the streets.
Hey, I'm no enemy alien. I tried to volunteer for the war, twice. And by the way, most of the strikers are English.
But you weren't born here.
No, I was born in Galicia, but I've been here since I was 10. And this is my country too. I wanted to fight for Canada and the Union Jack.
People like you would have enlisted and then turned on us on the battlefield. You would have supported the enemy, your fatherland.
I wanted to help Canada, but they called us aliens and made us carry identification papers. No one would hire us. We weren't even allowed to go to America to look for work. A bunch of us did anyway.
What are you doing here then?
Well, police stopped us at the border and forced us to march to the internment camp in Brandon. I escaped from that place twice.
That just means you got caught twice.
Yeah. All I wanted was a job. I wanted the job for the same reasons you want work. To buy food and a better place to live. What girl is going to go with the fellow who doesn't have a job?
Yeah, that's true. Anyway, I won't be stuck here much longer. I'm a returned soldier. The papers say soldiers will get work easily.
Maybe they tell you that so you won't join the strike. Most veterans support the strike.
I gave everything for this country. Employers won't forget that. Well, I guess I'll see you on the streets tomorrow. Watch out for yourself.
I'll watch out for both of us.
Okay, so Frederick and Martin are my favorite thing in this exhibit that we have, both in person and virtually. And we have had the most amazing conversations with students, basically figuring out, you know, who was this Martin, who was this Frederick, and what do the two of them have in common. So they're both based on real people, the one in particular, Frederick, is Frederick Coppens, who is a Victoria Cross winner. And so what happens is that on June 10th, he has become a special constable in the strike. And there is a confrontation at the corner of Portage and Main between pro-strikers and the special constables. And Frederick gets pulled off his horse and beat up. And then the headlines in the newspaper the next day are, you know, war hero beat up. And there's a big controversy about this. And it really begins to show the divisions and perspectives of the strike. And one of the things I just draw your attention to with this photo here is that it's described as the Winnipeg riots. You know, we've been hearing in the news lately this term riot, and it's been used in very political ways in the Black Lives Matter movement and others. And that, you know, how, you know, we name things and perspectives that we have, you know, are really important things to interrogate with in history. And so in our program, this is something that we've had some really great discussions with our students. So I think just to keep conscious of time, I think I'm just going to pause here in telling you about our field trips, and I'm going to invite my colleagues who are live in our galleries to join us. Corinne and Shauna, there you are, fantastic. Awesome. Hello, my dear. So hello. Welcome. And so I just want, because I'm probably talking a lot, I just wanted to make sure that we had as much time in our session to see us live in the galleries. So
absolutely.
I will let you take it away. Some of what I've been showing you is our sort of more presentation-based virtual field trips, which is what we sort of started when the museum was closed. But of course, now that the museum is reopened again, we are able to get live in our galleries. We don't have the same kind of interactive ability today in this session, but if anyone does have any questions in the chats, then we can relay them to Corinne. So Corinne, I'm gonna turn myself off and hand it over to you and show us around our beautiful Nonsuch gallery.
Alors, bonjour tout le monde et bienvenue au Musée du Manitoba. My name is Corinne, and here we are in the beautiful, my favorite gallery here at the museum, the Nonsuch Gallery. So in this gallery, as you can see, we have the beautiful Nonsuch, the ship that started the Hudson's Bay Company. Of course, it's not the real one, it's the replica, but it has its own history that has very intrigue and traveled for 4 seasons and was part of a whirlwind tour. But right now we're going to pretend it's the real one today, and we're going to tell you a little bit about where we are. So follow me. I'm going to take you through the streets of Bedford, England. The year is 1669, and here in this gallery, we've taken it up a level. So over the last few years, we just went through a really big renovation. And now when you come through the streets of Bedford, you actually get to hear the sights and sounds of Bedford, England. And so you can, my personal favorite is on a sunny day, right after the rooster crows, a gentleman is walking down the street, and from the window, a lady throws her chamber pot onto his head. And so you get to hear some nice, explicit, family-friendly conversation that he is not too happy. You get to see the shops right behind me that we just passed. So a haberdashery and the weaver's shop over here as part of the gallery is a little bit more immersive, of showing you just a little bit more about what this gallery and what the town of Bedford would have felt like. But I know you're all here to see what's on the ship, because that's actually one of the most magical moments of coming to the museum, is being able to board the Nonsuch. Now, the Nonsuch is closed right now just because of COVID. However, with our virtual field trips, we get to bring your classroom on board the ship, which is something we can't do in person right now. So follow me aboard the ship. So as we venture aboard the ship, we get to take a look at the different aspects of what it would be like to be on a 17th century ketch. People think when they come into the galleries, it's a lot bigger than it seems, but then they get on here and they realize it's a lot smaller than it is. So the first thing is we talk a little bit with the students of the hold of the ship. So all the cargo that we just passed on the pier, that would all go down here. There is a galley kitchen that we like to point out to students with our flashlights from here at a safe point, and just talk a little bit about what the sailors' lives were really like, you know, what they ate, what they needed, and what were they going to go do in the New World. Because I mean, the company, the Hudson's Bay Company, was called the Governor Company of Adventurers. So they were all adventurers sailing out to the Hudson's Bay. Over here, we talk about the strength it takes to be a sailor. So here's the windlass that lifts, and I don't know, Shauna, my wonderful camera person who's helping us today, I don't know if you can see the anchors, but we have 2 giant anchors that are 500 pounds. So of course, these men needed lots and lots of strength to lift, and of course, simple machines to pull the anchor up and to lower them. One of my personal, I love stories. This is probably why I work in a museum. And we're going to kind of talk about a little bit of the decor on the ship. So here we have 2 exact same dogs here. They're called Boots and Wellington. And they actually are, they're kind of the ship's icon. So there was a family who would come and visit the shipmakers as they were making the replica ship. And so this dog came and visited the shipmakers every single day on their journey as they recreated the Nonsuch. And so the shipmakers decided to incorporate Boots or Wellington into the ship. And so Boots, I believe, was his nickname, and Wellington was his actual name. Now, the other great part is we get to talk a little bit about life as a sailor in terms of how this actually sailed. So Shauna, if you want to come up. dispelling myths here at the museum and talking a little bit about how things sailed. So kids can really grasp the fact that this was wind powered, there is no motor here, but sometimes we shock kids by where is the steering wheel? And that's because hadn't been invented yet. So we get to talk a little bit about technologies of the day. My personal favorite is if you come over here and check out the compass and the gyroscope that it's on, so that the compass would always point north, but it would allow to move with the waves of the ocean. So here you go. The compass always points north once it settles down, but it allows that movement. So again, just the wonderful technologies back in the 17th century that helped these sailors cruise along across the Atlantic Ocean. So we're going to carefully go back down the stairs and head to the captain's cabin, where you'll get to see the size of these sailors.
So just while Corinne's moving, so today, because of the platform that we're using, we can't communicate directly with our participants. But when we're doing one of our regular virtual field trips, we're able to speak directly to classes and to students using like audio, or we can also connect remotely, and people can ask questions through chat. And so Corinne's sort of giving you a little taste of the experience that we have in some of our field trips as you sort of move and actually journey through the galleries. And in our other interface, we're able to be very interactive and ask and answer questions with our participants. Okay, back to you, Corinne.
Thanks, Anya. So here we are in the bunks or in the captain's cabin. It's very dark in here. So hopefully you guys can get this. So here we have the two beds in the captain's quarters. So this would have been for the higher ranking sailors, like the captain and maybe the ship's doctor or passenger. So here you have a bed. It's not very big. I believe it's just slightly under 6 feet long. And that's because sailors were 5'6" or shorter. And that's really because short people like me have a better sense of gravity, especially when you're climbing up those high ladders up to get to the sails. And I'll show you the height of this ship. But one of my favorite things in here is just like this, it doesn't look very comfortable, but it's much better than what the other sailors were sleeping on, which was essentially just the cargo. You know, the ship's captain had a lot of work to do. You know, he'd have his meals at this table, but sometimes you had to work and you had to unroll the maps. And this was a great way to easily unroll the map right here. And so here is the captain's cabin. And there's always secrets on a ship. And so for most people, I'm going to point down here, Shauna. So the Lazarus. So this was kind of the captain's cubby hole. So if sailors were not participating or behaving, he could confiscate things and place them in here in a chest so no one was fighting. So apart from that, we're just going to get a really good look at the height of this ship. And of course, we would take this a lot slower on a virtual field trip. We are very limited in time today to show you all of our wonderful things. But with a class, we would take our time and really explain all the features of the ropes and just all the features of the floorboards and just really be very interactive with your class, as Anya said. So basically, leading by the questions your students are asking. So yeah, I think that's about all I wanted to show on the ship. Apart from, you know what, the kids always tend to find the cannonballs. So there's always these things and there's always that question. And we always lead into protection. No, it's not a pirate ship. It never was. But also just talking about the importance of those furs and how luxurious and how expensive they were. And so they had to be protected. And that's why the ship did have cannons. And hence, young boys always find the cannonballs.
Thank you so much, Corinne. I'm just wondering, Shannon, does anybody just take a moment to pause? Does anyone have any questions specifically about the ship? I didn't give the full preamble of exactly what the ship is, but do people have any questions just about anything they're seeing, or any questions at all that they want to put into the session, and then Shannon can relay to us?
We actually just got a question asking about how long the average virtual tour is.
So most of our virtual tours are about 45 minutes, depending on student participation. And so we've had some where, you know, kids have gone crazy with questions and answers, and they've gone on to a bit longer, which we're always very open to, because we want them to be as interactive as possible. But for the most part, about 45 minutes. We do some for younger students in grade 2, where about more like 30 minutes or so.
Okay, there's also a question about what is the cost for a field trip like this one, a virtual one?
Yeah, and so this is for our base fee is $95, and what that includes is that's a private session with a class where we can, you know, be fully interactive with you. We can, for another fee of $25, add additional classes for you as well, but we're quite flexible. So especially in these days where, you know, this possibility of people being remote at home or students being sick at home, then, and I'll just turn on my camera too, then we can work with you. So what's kind of cool about the technology is that we're able to both do in class and remotely with number of people at the same time. And if any of you are in rural Manitoba, we've been working really hard to get some funding to help subsidize these field trips for schools. And so we've recently just got an initiative going for schools in rural Manitoba that we haven't had a chance to announce yet, but if you are interested in coming, let us know, and we can help you out with that.
There's also another question asking if there is a limit on class size.
And so most of our field trips, just to allow sort of maximum interaction, they're basically geared towards, you know, one class, and so a group viewing together. But of course, we know situations are very diverse, but we can have multiple connection points up to 100. So in the spring, when we were running things remotely, you know, sometimes we would have, you know, 100 participants coming in. But the best experience to give the students a chance to interact and to make it really personalized for you, we try to sort of gear it towards one class, whatever one class is these days. Any other questions?
Not in our chat yet.
Not in our chat. Okay. So Corinne, thank you so much. Giving us an awesome look at you know, sort of the experience of going through the galleries. So for those of you who haven't been to the museum before, you know, we do have sort of full tours of the museum galleries, as well as specialized curriculum focused lessons as well. So I'm just going to go back to my presentation.
Just before you do, we have a couple more questions.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
One is, who should we be contacting about the subsidy? Find out if we qualify.
Yeah, and so, you know, the best thing is to contact us at programs, so like programs with an S, at manitobamuseum.ca to inquire about our virtual field trips. If you go on our website, then you can fill out a booking form that will also take you to us. So manitobamuseum.ca and the education page, but you can just email the museum, programs at Manitoba Museum, and we'll be happy to let you know about that.
Okay, somebody also made a comment about the fact that they only have half of their kids at the same time, and that it could get expensive because they would have to do everything twice. Is there something that could maybe happen for those situations?
Yeah, and you know what, right now, it is so incredible what you teachers are doing. I know people who have 3 classes split in the same building that they go from place to place. I know some teachers have, you know, 2/3 at home, 1/3 in class and rotating around. So just as you're being so flexible, we're happy to be flexible with you. So for example, my daughters, they only go 2 out of the 6-day cycle and the rest of the time at home. We can Zoom both into a classroom and to, the 20 kids that are at home. So just like you are being so flexible, we are very happy to, work with whatever situation you have and make it work for you for sure. So just, let us know about your situation and we'll be happy to talk to you. We are, like many arts and heritage organizations, we are a nonprofit organization. And so it comes back to that, what can we do? What are we able to do? So we do rely on ticket admissions and donations to provide the educational programs that we do. But we, as I said, we're also working with community partners to see how we can make these field trips as accessible and affordable to people. And also, we're working on adding more free and always accessible resources and videos and such to our website. So to find out more about all the sort of upcoming and new things and things that are available, I would suggest if you go to our website and you can subscribe to our teachers educational newsletter, that's where you're going to hear the information first. But if you can't find that on our website, just email the museum and they will be happy to send that.
Okay, we have one more question. Do your presenters have experience working with ESL groups using simplified language, slow pace, that kind of thing?
Absolutely. So we have long had a program called Call at Home, where we have particularly things geared towards English learners. And in fact, actually this afternoon, we also have shows, our planetarium shows have gone online too. And they will be presenting this afternoon to English language learners. So we, again, happy to work with you and adapt to your audience's needs for sure. And we can also customize too. So that's, immigration and newcomers is a big theme in our new Winnipeg Gallery. So we would be happy to do something related to that if that is of interest as well. Anything else, Shannon?
Not yet.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so I don't think I'm going to go back into my PowerPoint. We have just a couple minutes left. But one of the programs, I'll just tell you about a couple more that we're doing. One that will be available, actually 2 that will be available in January, are focused on Indigenous art. And also one on climate change. So this is a really exciting new connection for us, that particularly with our new galleries, that we have a lot of, and Manitoba specific stories, is sort of always our focus, to share with classes. So issues of sustainability and such. The other one that I'm really excited about is our Indigenous Agriculture program, talking about the work of our archaeologist, Kevin Brownlee, and really sort of disrupting some of the ideas that we have about ancient history and what was going on in Manitoba and how we frame these things. I think this is one of also just an exciting time when we're looking at how to be telling narratives from Indigenous perspectives and maybe disrupting some of the ways that we currently tell history. So that sounds quite serious, but it's actually a fun and interesting program where we sort of do an interactive bingo thing with students, and that's geared towards the grade 8 curriculum. So putting North America and agriculture and domestication of plants that has impacted the entire world coming out of the Americas. That's the focus of a program geared both to the grade 8 curriculum, and we have another slightly different version for the grade 10 geography curriculum as well. So that's one that I'm very excited about, and we will be launching next month. And so information about all of that is available on the education page of our I think we're just about out of time. So thank you, Shannon, for coming on this adventure with me. Neither of us were quite sure how this interface was going to work today. Thank you so much for joining us. Feel free to contact me at the museum if you have any questions or if you have any ideas of how we might support you as teachers, because you are such an important audience for us. And any last things in the chat, Shannon?
Nope, we don't have anything left in the chat. And I want to thank you very much for presenting today in our conference. And I wish you guys well during our remote learning, virtual type things that we're doing, because I know it's not easy for nonprofits right now with everything they're doing.
Yeah, not easy for anyone. So everyone out there, stay safe and keep up the good work. You know, I have been so amazed by teachers and their creativity, you know, and it's just such challenging times. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope, I hope we gave you a little bit of a flavor of what we've been doing. We're sort of giving you just little snippets and tastes of things. As I said, we're happy to be flexible and to work with you to help support you as best we can in your classroom. All right, so Shannon, I guess, do we end it here?
Sounds good. Thank you
Wonderful.
again.
Okay, enjoy the rest of your conference.